name is Maria Kirilova, and I'm the Client Relations Specialist for the GRE program at TTS. My work is focused in the EMEA region, where I support some of the 1,300 business schools that accept the GRE for admission as a way to attract top talent to their programs. I also work with student bodies and institutional stakeholders to help advocate TTS's mission to advance quality and equity in education. The GRE General Test is the world's most widely accepted admission test for graduate school, including business and law. It measures the skills that are proven to be important for success in graduate-level programs: verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, critical thinking, and analytical writing. GRE test scores are used to apply to a range of master's, MBA, specialized business programs, JD, and doctoral programs. Unlike other admissions tests that might be for one program or another, because the GRE scores are accepted for all programs, applicants only need to take one test to have so many options within reach. And scores are valid for 5 years, so the GRE General Test is an excellent choice even for individuals that are not sure what they want to do or pursue as an advanced degree. The test is offered on computer and continuous basis throughout the world. It can be taken at more than 1,000 test centers in more than 160 countries or from the comfort of home. Test takers can decide to take it wherever they feel more comfortable so they can do their best on testing. Applicants from around the world who are interested in pursuing a master's, specialized master's in business, MBA, JD, or doctoral degree should take the GRE General Test. GRE scores are used by admissions or fellowship panels to supplement undergraduate records, recommendation letters, and other qualifications for graduate level study. GRE scores are the only common measure for comparison included in an application. Think of the GRE General Test as one piece of an overall application that, when reviewed together with an applicant's essay, undergraduate GPA, interviews, and letters of recommendation, helps provide the most complete picture of the applicant. While personality and diverse experience will shine in other components, the test is where an applicant can prove they have the academic skills that are important to graduate program success. Graduate schools, including business and law, often require admissions test scores because they rely on the scores as one of the only common objective measures they can use to compare applicants from varied educational backgrounds and to confirm an applicant's readiness for graduate-level coursework. As an added bonus, some schools also consider test scores when awarding scholarships and fellowships. So, why take the GRE General Test versus another admissions test? The GRE test is the only graduate admissions test that can be used to apply to a range of graduate, business, and law programs, meaning that prospective applicants only need to take one test to have the most options for applying to graduate programs. With scores that are valid for 5 years, test takers have the time to decide on the program that fits them best. The testing experience also is more personalized. While other business admissions tests require test takers to answer each question in order and do not allow them to see what is ahead or to go back, the GRE General Test gives test takers the option to use more of their own test-taking strategies within each section, because one can change answers, mark and review questions, skip questions, and return to them, and navigate freely within the section. If a test taker decides to try and beat their score on, say, their first test, they have the option to take the test again and send only the scores that they want schools to see. Test takers do not have to send their scores if they feel they didn't do their best. This is made possible with the Score Select service, a feature unique to the GRE General Test. And listeners can learn more about it on ets.org/GRE. And as I mentioned, the test can be taken at home or in a test center, allowing test takers to select the option that works best for their needs. The GRE General Test consists of analytical writing measure, a verbal reasoning measure, and a quantitative reasoning measure. The analytical writing measure features two separately timed 30-minute tasks: analyze an issue and analyze an argument. It assesses the test taker's ability to support ideas with relevant reasons and examples, and examine claims and accompanying evidence, and the ability to articulate complex ideas clearly and effectively and provide focused responses to questions. It is scored on a scale from 0 to 6 in half-point increments. The verbal reasoning measure features two 30-minute sections with 20 questions in each section. It assesses the test taker's ability to analyze and evaluate written material and synthesize information obtained from it, analyze relationships among component parts of sentences, and recognize relationships among words and concepts. It is scored on a scale of 130 to 170, reported in 1-point increments. The quantitative reasoning measure features two 35-minute sections with 20 questions in each section. It assesses one's ability to interpret and analyze quantitative information, solve problems using mathematical models, and apply basic mathematical skills and elementary mathematical concepts of arithmetics, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. It is scored on a scale of 130 to 170, and it's reported in 1-point increments. Here's what I can tell listeners though. The test measures general reasoning and critical thinking skills developed over a long period of time. It is not intended to trick test takers. It is intended to test the skills already learned in high school and college rather than new information. For example, the quantitative reasoning section includes high school level mathematics and statistics, generally no higher than Algebra 2. It does not include higher college level math, including trigonometry and calculus. Most students will have had Algebra 2, either in high school or college, so preparing for the test is more a matter of brushing up than having to learn completely new information. I can also tell listeners that there is a lot of free information available on the GRE website to help individuals prepare for the test. So if they're concerned about the analytical writing section, for example, they'll be pleased to hear that not only does the website give an overview about that section, but it also provides all of the essay topics that we use in the actual test and information about how scoring is done. We even provide scored sample essay responses and the rationale for those scores. The verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning measures are section-level adaptive. The computer selects the second section of a measure based on the test taker's performance on the first section. Within each section, all questions contribute equally to the test taker's final score. Both scores are important since the final score on each measure is based on the total number of correct answers and the level of difficulty of the questions. Points are not deducted for wrong answers, so it's always better to guess than to leave an answer blank. For the analytical writing section, each essay receives a score from at least one trained human rater using a 6-point holistic scale. The essay is then scored by a narrator, a computerized program developed by ATS that is capable of identifying essay features related to writing proficiency. If the human and the e-rater scores closely agree, the average of the two scores is used as the final score. If they disagree, the second human score is obtained and the final score is the average of the two human scores. First and foremost, the test taken at home is the exact same test as taken in the test center. So the good news is that test takers can use the same test preparation materials to prepare for the test, whether they take it at home or at the test center. Test takers can use the same test taking strategies on the test day as well. The primary difference between testing at home is that test takers will use their own equipment and will be monitored online by a human proctor as opposed to being monitored by a proctor within a test center. Taking the test at home requires a computer that meets all of the equipment requirements. No tablets, Chromebooks, or phones can be used. Test takers will download the software to run the test, and they have to be in a room that provides an acceptable environment for the test. All of the requirements and details are available on the GRE website that I've mentioned a few times now. Check them out. It's definitely a great option for those that can meet the requirements. Preparation for the test will depend on the amount of time a test taker has available and their personal preference of how to prepare. At a minimum, before taking the GRE General Test, test takers should know what to expect from the test, including the administrative procedures, types of questions, and all directions, approximate numbers of questions, the amount of time for each section. All of this information can be found on the GRE website, which also includes official test prep materials, many of which are free. Once familiar with the structure and content of the test, it's a good idea to take a free time Power Prep online practice test. The Power Prep practice test simulates the actual test and allows users to get accustomed to the pace of the test, use the test taker friendly design features like mark and review and the on-screen calculator. After taking the practice test, developing a test plan should follow. Preparers can learn more about planning their prep on the GRE website. After the planning and the preparing, we recommend taking the second Power Prep online practice test to identify where work is still needed and to identify potential improvements. In general, we recommend that no native English speaker prepare the same way as native English speakers. In addition, to prepare for the verbal reasoning measure, we recommend that individuals find GRE level reading material. That is, reading material in which there is an argument being presented, an argument that's supported by reasoning, and or evidence of some kind. A point of view is being advanced based on research. Other positions, other points of view may be considered and evaluated and dismissed. Specialized academic journals are a good place to find such writing. Articles in periodicals such as the New York Times, The Economist, Scientific American is a good source. London Review of Books and other kinds of book reviews in which a book may be under consideration, being evaluated and discussed. Another good source of trade books by academic specialists or journalists that are addressed to the general audience. Basically anything that's presenting an argument supported by reasoning and evidence of some kind. In general, textbooks, popular periodicals don't have the kind of rhetorical complexity and argumentative complexity that are typically found in the GRE reading passage. We know that non-native speakers may find the analytical writing section more challenging than native speakers of English. However, our test developers take steps to ensure that these performance differences are not due to differences on the cross-cultural accessibility of the prompts. Fairness reviews occur for all prompts to ensure that the content and tasks are clear and accessible for all groups of test takers, including students whose native language is not English. Scorers are trained to focus on the analytical logic of the essay more than on spelling, grammar, and syntax. The mechanics of writing are weighted in their ratings only to the extent that these errors impede clarity of meaning. Don't ignore quant prep. Of course, mathematics is a universal language and it's often an easier topic to prepare for than the purely verbal reasoning sections. However, test takers do need to understand the questions as presented on the test, which is often within a word problem or at least among some math terms. This is a popular question and I have answered it in many different ways, but when it comes down to it, the two tests measure the same skills: verbal, quant, analytical writing, and critical thinking skills in different ways. The main difference between the tests are format and score use related. However, there is also a difference in price. The GRE test costs less than $205 while the GMAT costs more at $250. The GMAT is question level adaptive test. In simplified terms, that means that the difficulty level of a question depends on the test taker's performance on the prior question. So if a test taker gets question 1 correct, the software will deliver a more challenging question 2. If the test taker gets question 1 wrong, question 2 would be a little easier, and so on throughout the test. Test takers are required to answer each question in the order that it's shown to them, and once a question is answered, the next question is presented and the test taker cannot go back. This is not the case with the GRE General Test. It is a section-level adaptive test, meaning that the second section of each measure is determined by the test taker's performance on the first section. If a test taker does well on the first section, the second section will be more challenging. And if the test taker does not perform well on the first section, the second section will be less challenging. The GRE test design allows test takers to move around forward and backward throughout an entire section using their own test-taking strategies. They can also skip questions to come back to later and mark questions for further review. Some listeners might have heard that one test has a more challenging quant section than the other, but that is just not the case. Both tests include questions up to a level of a typical Algebra 2 class and nothing beyond. Both tests are offered in test centers and at home. Test takers can take the GMAT test at home no more than 2 times, while the GRE test allows for the test to be taken at home up to 5 times in a rolling 12-month period. My hope is that anyone hearing this interview does amazing on their first attempt, but things happen and having flexible retake option is important. More than 1,300 business schools around the world accept GRE scores for admission to their MBA programs, including most top-ranked programs. So to name a few in the European market, INSEAD in France and Singapore, London Business School in the UK, HEC Paris in France, and IESE Business School in Spain accept GRE scores for their MBA programs. Well, that may be something new to listeners. Business schools have actually been accepting GRE scores for more than a decade now. Today, almost all business schools accept GRE scores and accept them on par with other graduate level admission tests. To see a full list of GRE accepting schools, listeners can review the list on our website, ets.org/GRE. I encourage them to review the admission requirements of schools they are interested in applying to. Admission test scores are one of the many things that they are going to consider when making applicant offer decisions. Committees are more indifferent to the test taken and really looking for those who have a solid application overall, including admission test scores. I feel as though I shared a lot of information already, but there is one thing that I'm excited to share. To help test takers feel confident and be successful on test day, the GRE program offers monthly prep sessions for free. During the sessions, participants will learn about question types, sample questions, and test-taking strategies from test developers, get additional resources to help them prepare for the verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and analytical writing measures, and have the opportunities to ask questions of the GRE program. Announcements about upcoming sessions are shared on the official GRE General Test page on Facebook and can be found on our website as well. I hope that all the listeners will take advantage of this great resource.